sometimes. It was nice, it was pretty.
Yeah.
I was in the mood.
Yeah.
Well, we're working now, so,
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
So let's turn it over to Marty,
all right.
and we'll be talking about transferring files,
Yeah. So
folders.
what you're seeing here right now, this is called File Manager. It's part of Windows. If you don't, like I got mine, if you look here, I've actually got it on my taskbar, so I don't have to go looking for it every time I want it. If you don't know where it is or how to find it, it's simple, go in here and say, type in File Manager, File Explorer, it's right there. And open it up right there. And if you want, you can just sit there and say, pin to start, or, you know, unpin from the taskbar, pin to the taskbar, whatnot. So you can actually put it down there, and that's something I use a lot whenever I'm looking for stuff, so I have it pinned so I don't have to go looking for it.
So pin to start or whatever means it puts a
This little
icon
bar
on
down
the
here,
bottom.
that's the taskbar, where you see all these little pictures and icons. So that way, instead of having to, like if I'm on my Chrome browser, I just click where it says that little round circle, that's Chrome, so. And so this, when you bring up File Manager, sometimes you gotta mess with it to get the view you want. It took me a good 15 minutes figuring out what the heck was wrong with this thing today, but I finally got the view I wanted so I could show you what I wanna show you. So let's say you wanted to share your pictures folder. If you right click here, it used to have a thing on there in Windows 7 that said share, and that was what I was used to doing. It doesn't do that anymore. So what you do is you go down here where it says give access to, and you say specific people. Like right now, this is my wife's computer, so her name is on there automatically because this is her computer. But if I want to say add a user, I can go in. Now, I'll go back and show you this, but right now I can select a user that I've created, Mingles, my name, and add that to the permission, add that to somebody who can access this folder. I'm not going to do that yet because the first thing I'm going to do is show you two things. First of all, here's another, you talk about putting icons on the screen. I'm into network and sharing a lot for whatever weird reasons, but the Network and Sharing Center is part of what's called Control Panel. So again, if you don't know how to find Control Panel, right, that pops up at the top, Control Panel. And again, you can pin that to your taskbar if you want to at the bottom, so you don't have to go looking for it all the time. And if you go into Control Panel, you'll see, you know, all those various different things. And like I said, one of those little things in Control Panel that I like to access a lot is Network and Sharing. And the reason I'm going to take you here is before you can share anything on your computer, you have to go into, if you look here, I open up the Network and Sharing Center, and if you look at the top, you see it says Control Panel / all Control Panel add-ons / Network and Sharing Center. So I just pulled that piece out of Control Panel and put a shortcut to it. And if you look here on the left, you'll see Change Advanced Sharing Settings. So if you click here, now you see right now here it says turn off network discovery. It says that because I turned on network discovery. Basically that allows people to discover what you have to share. It comes by default, I believe, turned off. So before you can share, you're going to have to go into here, turn on network discovery, and turn on file and print share. So again, by default, those are turned on. Now, once you turn that on, like I said, there is some exposure there, but they have to be on your network to be able to see it. And like I said, well, what's my network? If you got a wireless router and you're hooked up to it via wireless, anybody else who hooks up to that router via wireless is part of your network. Anybody questions on any of that? Okay. So now I've got this turned on. And so let's say I go and I create my file share, but the only person who's good.
Okay.
I lost it?
Well, it's just gone.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now, okay, great, I can share a folder. But now I have to tell it what users I want to allow to access it. Now what Microsoft does, and I'll show you this. Let's see, user. Other users. If I go into other users, again, from Control Panel, that's another one of those programs. You can sit there and say, add a family member, the family that's talking, your family or whatnot, or you can add someone else to this PC. If I click add someone else, okay, who's going to use this PC? So I can give it a username and enter a password. Now, I'm going to say Mingles. I already did that. Let me make up another one. J. Smith. Enter password. Got to re-enter the password. And then it's going to make you answer security questions in case you forget that password. Now, you're saying, wow, this is getting to be way too much work. I just want to share a folder and have them be able to access it. What I do for these security questions, I just pick any question and I put the same word in there over and over. My answer is, I don't know.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah, so I put the same answer to everyone.
Yeah. Holy cow.
That does two things. First of all, you don't have to remember what every answer. You know, what was the
Yeah.
first car I owned? Did I say Chevy? You don't remember. Those are easy to guess too. If you put some nonsense word in, not only is it easy to remember, but it's going to make that more secure as far as your security question goes. Make sense?
Yeah, to me it does.
Yep. Let's see.
I just have to take a book out and look it up.
I'll put my wife's name in there. Pingles, her name. So query question number 2. Just pick one. Your child nickname is Pingles. And security question number 3. City you were born. I was born in Pingles, Ohio. Pingles. And I click next. Now, if I could look, you see now I've got John Smith as a local account. Mingles is a local account. Now, why this is important is when somebody on their other computer, and I'm going to show you how you do that, they go to access that folder, the first thing it's going to want you to do is say, what's your username, what's your password, so you can have access. So you've created a user that they can access the folder. You've turned on file and print sharing. You go in. Now you can see here, I've got all the standard folders, but you can add another folder there if you want. Name it something that's relevant, that means what you want it to mean or whatever, and put the files in there selectively. And again, if I say, gee, I want to share my pictures file with Pam over there, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to walk in and give access to specific people. And I'm going to go up here, because Pam is already on this computer, and say, I'm going to get, or you can say everyone. And by everyone, that means anybody who sees that folder can have access. That's the easy button, not very secure, but like I said, if somebody gets into your router, they can get into that folder. But so I'm going to just say, I'm going to give access to John Smith on this one and add it. Now you see, I've got 2 users who are allowed to access that folder, the user that owns this computer and that J. Smith. What was a little confusing at first to me too, I kind of worked my way through it, and I'm surprised it came up right up to a username. But if you try to add a user, it's going to want to know the Microsoft account name, which can be challenging because I never log in with my Microsoft account itself. So if you've got one that's pretty standard, it's easy to remember, fine. But like I asked my wife, "What's your Microsoft account name and password?" She said, "I don't know." So that's where I got into just creating a user. And when you create a user, if it says I don't, it'll come up something say, "What's your Microsoft thing?" Say, "I want to create another account." Okay, what's their phone number, their email, or whatever? There's a little line that says, "I don't know these details." Okay, so it'll just let you create a user with a name from out of nowhere and a password, whatever you choose to give it. Any questions? Okay, so I've gone in, I've shared my folder, I've said who can access that folder. So now the work comes on the other side. The other computer that wants to map to that folder and see what's on your computer. So the challenge here, I kind of had an epiphany today. How am I going to show this if I don't have access to my own network here? So I've created some screenshots. So I'll take as far into it as I can. And after that, I'll just show you the screenshots of what should come up when you're doing this, if that's okay. Okay, so let's see. Again, I click here. Map, you see up here it says Map Network Drive. So I click there. And I've already got a drive Z on here, but typically it'll come up with drive Z, but you can change that letter to whatever letter you want. So once you've mapped this, if you go into that File Explorer, you're going to see your C drive. If you got a USB plugged in, you'll see that. If you got a DVD in, you'll see that DVD in there. And once you've mapped it, you'll see that drive mapping on there. And again, I'll show you that in a minute. So if you know the name of the folder, and the name of the folder is going to be, it's called Universal Naming Convention. // // the name of the computer / the name of the folder. So if it's easy, if your computer name is easy, mine wasn't, so I just went into browse. You can actually type that in there and let it go find it and say, okay, I got you. Or you can do something called browse. Now, if I browse here, it goes up the network and it goes out searching who's on your network, and I see what computers are on the network. It's not going to find anything now because I'm not hooked up to a network. So this is where I'm going to take you to the screenshots. If this did come up, let's see if I can do this in the right progression here. Actually, I'll go back in here. Downloads. All right. So let's say I go in there, I go to browse. And again, I took it, I wanted to copy a picture. I didn't know if even that would come up properly. That's where we are now. Then if you click, it'll come up, and if it finds computers, and typically if you got 2 or 3 computers, it's going to find them. Like in this one, it came up with my wife's laptop, and for some reason it calls my desktop laptop dash and the name of it. So what I did there is I clicked on that, and these 2 folders came up, showed. Now it's kind of hard to see probably where you're at, but the one was a folder I created, test. Another one was a mapping to a user folder I created called users. So you see that, okay, test is a folder I want to map to, or pictures is a folder on that computer I want to map to. You would click on that and say okay, and then that's when it's going to come up and ask you for a username and password. Let's go to number 4. Already got that. Okay, go to number 5. Okay, now once you've mapped to that drive, it'll come up and say, okay. Now you can see there was originally the letter Z, so it comes up with the letter Z. And you see that it says / laptop - my name / test now. And there's also some options here. Reconnected sign in and connect using different credentials. But reconnected sign in means, do you want that drive always mapped when you bring up your computer? Now, if you don't want to have to go through this every time, you typically would just say, yes, let it reconnect. And let's see what I put on here. Okay, I wanted a picture of that because I didn't know if I'd get that, but I know I can see that here. I'm going to close all that, close that. So if you look here, let's close it and open again, right here. So now you see down here at the bottom, this one right here, that's that folder. You know, laptop, that's there, and that's my letter Z. So I've got that I could attach that right now. I can't because I'm here and that computer's there. So at that point, you can open up just like any folder on your computer. You can take that and put that drive mapping on like an icon on your computer screen. So you don't have to go file manager, blah, 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 and try to find it down there every time. You can just click on that icon and that'll open up that folder and you'll see what's in it. If the permissions are correct, and that's what I said, you have to look here. So if you go on these, my pictures folder, and I go down to the properties, you're going to see here under security. So you can see who is allowed to do what. Now right now system is a generic thing, it's always going to be in there. Administrators, that's always going to be in there. And since it's my wife's computer, she's in there. So if I could edit permissions and say, you know, as far as what users are in there, you can edit those and add users that can't access that, the whole bit like that. And again,
is it still specific to that limited file?
I'm sorry?
The permission, is that still specific to that particular file?
Right now, I've got the permissions on the folder itself.
On the folder?
Yeah, so you're seeing the permissions on the folder. So you want to check it on the folder. Now, I didn't have time to get into it, but I know I used to know this stuff. if I create a folder and I give permissions to everybody, will all files I put in that folder, will those take those same permissions? Basically, it'll adapt to the permissions you're given the folder. I haven't had a chance to test that yet. I'll get an answer for that. But, so that's for the folder. Now, if I go into documents, let's say, that's not going to be fun. Let's do this one. Properties. Now I'm going to a file. This is a PDF file in here. And I click on security. Once again, you'll see who has the right to use that and what rights they have. That's at the file level now. So that's something probably I should explore a little bit further. Like I said, I kind of ran out of time on this one, but whether or not it will adapt those permissions if you put it into that folder, or do you have to go in, and is there a way to mass edit? If I want to give all my pictures permissions to access those to somebody else, do I have to go into each one separate? I don't think you do, but that's something I'll get a little bit more information on. Questions? Okay. Does anybody see any potential use for this?
I would just email them. Seemed a lot easier.
Once it's set up, Tom, it's a lot easier if it's all set up. The setup may sound intimidating. Once you know how to do it, it'd take you maybe 10 minutes worth of work to get it all set up. After that,
Explain why you researched all this